Well, that was my first mistake. Okay, trying a few things different here today. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody can hear me okay. I'm trying something new. I've got this cordless headset with a boom mic on it. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. If you out there in the chat would let me know. Of course, I could have done a tech check, but you know, okay. Brooke Hedrick saying yes, we can hear you. Perfect. Now, if you can hear my air conditioner running right behind me, please let me know, and I'll go ahead and shut it off and roast for y'all. Um, good, good friend of this channel and becoming a very, very overly generous man. Sargon Tavur sent me this cordless headset because I mentioned in a video that I have a very short cord on my standard mic and I can't um, walk around with it. So now I'm portable. So get over there right in front of the AC and you won't be able to hear a thing. Okay. Everybody's saying no, they can't hear the AC. What should we talk about? Oh, cracky, that thing behind me right there. Yes, y'all were right. It is an Avid 48 by 48 Pro. And to be honest, I didn't really try to hide it all that well. I mean, come on, I wouldn't have put that picture in the video to flash up on a single screen, a single frame rather. Um, I wasn't really trying to hide it. I was just playing with folks. I have mentioned before that some things are going to change on the channel, and one of them is I'm going to start putting a little bit more of my sense of humor in it, and maybe I'll even remember to turn on the light here so you can see and don't just feel this. Don't just hear this disembodied voice. Okay, yeah, it is the Avid 4848 Pro with the NEMA 34 motor set and the 4 horsepower spindle. And I have to say, this thing is an absolute beast. Um, Let me get up here for a second and I can move around the top of my air conditioner. Ignore that. Over here, I took that old nasty toolbox and took out the bottom 3 drawers, and that's a computer station. Let me find my tape. Yeah, as usual, I can't find my tape measure. No, it's about, yeah, it's right at 28 inches long, and eyes are the second things to go. Yeah, it's about 28 inches wide. The man door is right here, and this 28-inch wide toolbox overhangs the door by about 3 inches. And it is about a half inch away from the front of the machine. This thing is a beast. It is 17 inches longer than the Gatton CNC was. It's only about 3 inches wider, but man, this thing is a beast. It's really going to be something. Let's see here. Yeah, Martin at I Build Sheds. Congratulations. Thank you. Um, no wonder you didn't need the spindle anymore. Yeah, Martin had a spindle he was going to send down to me, and yeah, I was ready for it. I've got all of the I've got all the power for it and everything all set up and ready to go. And then I started talking with the folks at Avid, and when everything got confirmed and I got a shipping date, it's like, Martin, thank you for the kind offer, but I don't need it anymore. So let's see. I know folks are going to be asking about price and money and all that other stuff. I'm going to do that in a separate video. Okay. And that'll be at the end of the build. I am right now, let's see, Avid, like I said in the video earlier today, Avid breaks up the instructions into 8 different sections. And I started section 5 about 20 minutes before we went live here. So as it sits right now, I have video for, I think it's going to be broken down into 3 parts. At the end of part 3, after it's assembled and it's moving, I'm going to go into a total cost breakdown of everything, and we'll get into all that then. So we're just going to leave that for now. See, Craig Lafferty wants to know what the shipping time was. I'm in Southern Oregon, and they're in North Bend, Washington. So about right around 8 hours away from me. However, they shipped it on, see, what was it? Friday, July 1st. So it sat in Portland, Oregon over 4th of July weekend and didn't move again until Tuesday the 5th. I got it Wednesday the 6th. And of course, if you follow me on Facebook, you know I just posted like crazy about stuff was on its way and everything. The UPS man was not amused. I did have one comment by somebody who looked at the picture I posted on Facebook. And on one of the extrusion boxes, there was a shipping label that I didn't notice was facing the camera when I took that still photo. But it said Old Dominion Freightliner. And he says, well, it's not an Avid because they only ship UPS. But 8020 ships Old Dominion. So you was wrong, homeboy. That's okay. Actually, Martin, it was 24 boxes, but who's counting? It's great. Yeah, it only took actual transport time about 3 days from the date that they shipped it. And so, but then again, I can drive up there in about 7-8 hours. So depends on traffic. Bob Dart wants to know, did you get the Rotary with it? No, not yet. I'm thinking I'll add a Rotary next year, but not right now. I've got too much going on, and learning this beast is going to be an experience. So this is going to be something, because not only is it going to be learning the new bigger machine, it's going to be learning Mach 4. And I went ahead and decided to upgrade to Mach 4 because I needed to get with the times, you know. Martin, I'm so excited for you. I've wanted one of those for so long. Yeah, but you would have to stay in one place, and I don't know if you could get one up in the mountains with you. So, I mean, you could get it up there, but you wouldn't. I don't know. So, that's the name of that tune. I'm getting ready. See, today I'll have the Z-axis mounted and start running cable track. And well, let's see, what's the next step after mounting the Z? Yeah, cable track and electronics boxes, and go from there. And let's see, RB Woodwork, are you going to build it so you can mount parts vertically? Yes. Yes, I am. and I have some ideas floating around in my brain that we'll see if they come to fruition. But okay, there he is. He showed up. Sargon, thank you much for the headset. I'm able to walk around now, and it works great. But something I have noticed about it, this is a very cool gaming headset, by the way. Um, and thank you very much. Something I have noticed is that if you don't speak into it or it doesn't receive anything for a certain amount of time, they shut off. And so I had a couple of panic moments. I'm sitting here with the headset on, getting ready to go live, and it shut off twice. And I thought, uh-oh, we can't have that. But turns out it does that if it's not sending or receiving. So let's see here. Ronald Art wants to know, why did you choose Avid? Um, the main reason I chose Avid is due to Frank Howarth. When he built his first machine, it's been several years back now. He's up in Portland, Oregon, and Frank Howarth is one of my heroes. Um, when he built his first machine, I got real interested in it, especially his vertical table that he started to put on it. Then he got contacted by, at that time, they were still CNC router parts. And they basically bought his machine and gave him a 4x8, which he then later on extended and added the vertical table to it. And watching his build series, watching the things he's done on his, before he put the 8.7 horsepower spindle on it, back when he was running the 4-horse spindle. Or excuse me, no, he had the 3-horsepower spindle. I just fell in love with that machine, and they are expensive, but they're not as expensive as some of the other bigger industrial machines are. And I'll be honest, I do not have space for a big old industrial machine here. And I didn't want to have to relearn everything. When I started looking into these, they were still running on Mach 3. And I'm like, okay, I have a Mach 3 license. That'll work for me. But this thing looks so beefy and so much stronger, and not to mention so much faster than a lead screw machine ever could be. I just fell in love with it, and I've coveted that CNC ever since he built it. Then when he added the rotary to it and started doing the inlaid, like the first bowl he did was inlaid clouds. He clamped that bowl up on that table and set it at an angle and cut out the clouds, glued them in, and then put them on his lathe and turned them. I thought that is the coolest thing in the world. So, I just fell in love with the machine. Uh, they're local. Well, not really local. Like I said, they're about 8 hours away from me. And I have crossed paths with several of the Avid team in live streams, theirs as well as Vectric's, as well as a few others. And I have yacked back and forth with a lot of these people. And I kept, threatening to go up and visit them and then bring a machine back with me. But, here we are. I have really, honestly, I've wanted an Avid since I started looking at them. That's why. So I know that was more than you wanted to know, but let's see here. Kurt Briggle wants to know, what's the max feed rate you should be able to obtain. I have absolutely no clue. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to find out. I joined, and I'm kind of lurking in a few of the Avid groups But now that I've gone ahead and made the announcement, I can get in there and start talking about them and talking in the groups and learning this, that, and the other. But I'm seeing cutting speeds depending upon the material of anywhere from 100 to 400 inches per minute. So it just depends on what's being cut. I know the Rapids, their max is 1200, and but that doesn't really make any difference because you're not cutting at 1200. Like I said, I haven't even got this set up yet. I'm going to set it up with the Rapids at about 6 because it's only a 4-foot machine, and I doubt that it'll ever make it that fast. But we'll see what happens. Yes, Dave Gatton has one, but that's not why I bought mine. I did talk to him a lot about his experience with it, whether he was happy with it. But he just kind of confirmed things. So, I didn't base it off of his purchase. See, is this Avid thing going to be a trend after Dave and you both? Will other Gattoneers follow? I have no idea. That's up to them. A lot of people have started with the Gatton CNC and then gone on to other machines. Cam Master, Shop Saber, the Maverick, what is that? The Legacy Maverick. And, I have absolutely no regrets about building that Gatton. It did everything I asked it to do. And I wouldn't have changed a thing about building it. It was a great learning experience, but I want to step up my game and move on to something bigger and something better, and be able to get into more advanced topics and what have you. Now, I know I'm known for beginners videos, and that's not going to change. But having said that, a word for the wise, this is not a beginner machine. You should have a little bit of experience under your belt before you take on something that could potentially, get out of control. But I want to get more into work holding, fixturing, more advanced fixturing and work holding. And I'll be shooting video of the whole thing along the way. I have some ideas about fixturing and work holding that I want to try out. And the way my old frame and table was made, I just couldn't do that. So I have checked. We've had a bunch of questions. I've got 5 of them set aside. I will get to them. But I guess the topic is du jour is the beast right there. Let's see here. Roger wants to know, are you going to use a spindle or a router? I got the 4 horsepower air-cooled spindle. I do not want a water-cooled spindle out here. I don't want to be I don't want to be playing around with coolants and all the other good stuff. So let's see. Naughty Woodwork. What are these other Avid groups? I'm only aware of the one. Well, that's the one that I am. That's the one that I'm in. Is the I can't remember what it's called. The Avid. Well, let's look for it here. Avid CNC Users Group on Facebook. I am a member there and have been for quite a while. So the Gatton machine, Martin, is taken apart and it's being stored right now. It's going to be going to a relative. He's just got to get a couple of projects done and then clean out his garage to make space for it. Then we'll put it together over there. So, let's see. Jeff Connor says, I built my Gatton base from 80/20 components. This stuff is beefy. I mean, seriously beefy. I went ahead and I checked it out. The gantry extrusion, it is 3 1/8 thick, 6 1/4 tall, 60 something inches wide. I don't remember how wide it is exactly, but that piece of extrusion by itself weighs 47 pounds. It is beefy. And I have, I saw that Joey from Steel Blade Woodworks is out here. He said here he is, Steel Blade Woodworks. He said in one of his videos that when you get that frame assembled, put it where you want it. Put it where it's going to stay, because after this frame, you ain't moving it. And he is 100% correct. Once you get that frame built, in fact, you get it about 2/3 built, put it where you want it, because it ain't going nowhere. The weight of the machine without the frame and legs is 377 pounds. So I don't know what all it is by the time and that's without electronics, that's without motors, that's without cables, any of that stuff. So it's big. Let's see. Blake, I just went with, I just went over that at the beginning. You'd have to catch it at the beginning. You have to kind of scroll back, Let's see. Extreme Worker says, as beefy it is, acceleration and deceleration will wiggle it. Yes, I do know that. And in fact, that's one of the things I'm going to get into and explore. It's not so much the velocity, it's not the speeds, it's the acceleration, because it tries to take off and get up to speed real fast, but then it has to start slamming on the brakes to slow down to get to the next turn. So if you're in a production environment and you're trying to get 1,000 parts cut in a day, yeah, I can see where you need that. I'm not in that big a hurry, so I plan on slowing down that acceleration, and that'll get rid of a lot of that wiggle. So let's see here. When that bad boy gets rocking and rolling, it'll slide around on the floor a bit. We lagged ours to the floor to make sure it's stable. Yeah, and again, Michael, it's turning down the acceleration on it, because I don't need that kind of acceleration. I'm a hobbyist, So let's see. Andrew W says, I would assume it runs on 240 volts. Depends on where you ship it to. If it's going overseas, they will set it up for 240. But if it's here in the US, the controller that runs the motors runs off of 120, and the VFD and Spindle run off of 240. And I have both. You can see my 240 volt right there. And then I've got 120 all around the shop. So let's see. Oops, wrong one. Lewis Denton says, how far are you off of the rear wall? 2 feet off of the rear wall. Will this affect tiling? A little bit, but not much. So let's see. Let me get back up here. We had a couple of comments and a couple of questions, and I've not been able to get to them fast enough. Not been able to catch up. Extreme Woodworker Steve says, for dust boot, I highly recommend the one made by one guy in a shop on Etsy. Steve, Get out of my head. Already done. More on that later. Yes, already done. Let's see here. Michael says, I'm interested in knowing what the new feeds and speeds could be. Yeah, I am too. And I'll find out as I cruise along, you know. It's going to be a learning adventure. It really is. Let's see. Okay, Naughty Woodwork says you can actually run both off a 240 volt, but it's common in the USA to use 120 volt for controller and 240 for spindle. Yeah, that's the setup that I have. So let's see here. We are going to look at a couple of other things here. Let's see. As the questions keep rolling in, I won't ignore you. So Barnwork says, I don't know if it's been mentioned, but Avid will make custom size for your special needs. As I remember, I have a 48 Pro 2016. Yeah, they will. And it is easy to add. I won't be adding to this. I don't have room for it. My shed is only 12 by 16, and this puppy is taking up a huge amount of it. Andrew W. You moving your bed in there? Well, if I don't quit spending money, I might have to. But no, I won't be moving my bed. Let's see here. Todd, you should invite me out to help you. Well, it's already built. All the heavy lifting's been done. Where were you 3 days ago when we were trying to get it off the truck? Let's see here. Go ahead and get into one of these other questions real quick. Kurt Briggle wants to know, is there a way to easily tell the height needed for an STL file imported into Aspire running 10.5? Sorry, my nose itches. I don't know. The height needed for an STL file, that is part of the import process. You'll set the size, and the height is included in that. So maybe I don't understand the question, but you set the height as you bring it in, and that'll obviously scale everything else down unless you uncheck the link XY, but or link XYZ. But you set that height as part of the import process. So unless I don't understand the question, if that's not what you were asking, please do elaborate, and I'll try to get to it. Let's see here. We'll kind of cruise through here. Jeffrey Fannin says, how can you change a Vectric set to accept a long mill 30 by 48? Okay. Well, I'm assuming you are talking about, let me load Aspire here. Da, 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 da. All right, got Aspire. Let me get a new file opened up here. All right, and we will go over here and go into screen 2. I'm assuming you're talking about over here in your tool database. And you see, I still have mine set up for GAT and CNC. And I will need to add a new machine to it and include the Avid. When you go to do that, and I will be doing a video on this, there are several steps you'll have to do. I would suggest going to cancel this. I would suggest coming up here to help and go through your video tutorial browser and look for that tutorial. You'll be adding a new machine profile, and they update their database all the time. If it's not in there, if they don't have the long mill 30 by 48 in there, what you might do is you might see long mill is made by CNC Labs, I think. You might want to go ahead and get in contact with them and see if they have added it to the database. If not, then you'll have to go in and manually add it as a new machine and then just name it. That's what I had to do with the Gatton. I just went in and added a machine, entered all the measurements, the work size, and everything else, and then just name it long mill 30 by 48. So, excuse me. Let's see. Did you get the Rotary from Avid? I would love to see some more beginner Rotary stuff. It takes a different mindset and a little math. No, I did not. I'm going to I'm going to probably get the Rotary next year, because right now what has to happen is this needs to get finished, need to get it up and running. Then I've got to change lobsters and dance, head out back and build that lean-to on the back and move all this dust collection outside and move my compressor outside. Once that's done, then I can start thinking about other things. So I've got some, one of the first projects that the Avid is going to do is going to be some small cabinetry. I'm going to be building a work and assembly table that will double as an outfeed table for the table saw. And I'm going to make some small cabinetry to make up the bulk of that table, because I want to be able to store tools, sanders and what have you, make a kind of a sanding station out of it, and kind of go from there. So it's going to be a process. So okay, Jeff said he has sent an email to both. Thanks. Okay, yeah, I you may end up having to manually edit it, manually enter it rather, and go from there. But it's not difficult. I mean, I did it with the Gatton, and it would take me longer to tell you how to do it than it takes to actually do it. I'm gonna do a video. As you saw, I haven't added the Avid to Aspire yet. When I do, I'm going to do a video on it, and I'll go over adding something from the database and adding something manually for folks who need both, or either or. You can take your pick. So, okay, let's see here. Peter Van Vliet says, do you have a general rule for V carves on what size bit goes with what size letters you're carving? No, I don't. I don't have a general rule. What I tend to do, my go-to bit is the 90-degree V bit. I've done most of my carves with that, my V carves. And I will calculate the tool path for the 90-degree V bit, preview it, and just look at it. If it looks like it's not deep enough, I'll switch over to the 60-degree V bit, recalculate, and then preview that. But I don't have a set rule. I look for something. I try not to go any deeper than 1/8 of an inch on a V carve, whether I'm doing lettering or something large. I try not to go more than 1/8 of an inch deep, unless I absolutely have to, if the design calls for it or something like that. But if it's less than, well, like I say, I try to go for a max of 1/2 an inch. If it's less than a 1/16 of an inch, let's see what that is in metric here. 0.0625 inch in millimeters. So that's 1.5 millimeters. If it's less than 1.5 millimeters deep or 1/16 of an inch, then I will switch over to a bit with a steeper angle. That's when I would switch over to a 60 degree from the 90 degree. But generally speaking, if it's somewhere between a 1/16 and an 1/8, I'll leave it. I'll just keep going with the 90 degree. And the main reason that I will switch to a steeper bit like a 60 degree is because I don't want to sand away detail when I go to finish sand. So that's the name of that tune. Let's see here. Let's see. All right. Barnworks said, you made your purchase. Don't you have the opportunity to add the 5th axis to the control box, even if you're not using it at first? Yes. And I did. And you asked, did you select the extra capability on yours? Yes, I did get the control box outfitted for the rotary axis. So that's exactly why I did that. For those who don't know what we're talking about, when you order their plug and play electronics kit, you can get the 3-axis setup, or you can get the 4th axis setup. So there is that. I mean, and I went ahead and went for the 4th axis setup. While I didn't get it yet, when I do upgrade next year, I'm all set. All I'll have to do is assemble it, mount it, and then plug it in and then configure it. Roger says you should not have to do anything in Vectric to use the Avid unless you change from Mach, and he capitalized 3. I did. I changed to Mach 4 because I wanted to update everything and upgrade everything and be on the current software. So I'll have to change, my post processor and the whole thing. And there is an Avid post processor specifically. I mean, they partnered up with Vectric a long time ago, and they developed a post processor specifically for the Avid CNC, and that's what I'll be using. But more on that in later videos. Okay, the man, the myth, the legend, Todd H. CNC. Thoughts on spoil board? I'm going through about 15 different ideas at the same time in my brain. I do want to incorporate vertical work holding. I'm a fan of T-track. I don't tend to use clamps. That may change. So I will probably incorporate T-track into the spoil board, and I'm going to incorporate some vertical work holding. More on that when it actually happens. I'm not quite there yet. So as a matter of fact, I went ahead and went for the vertical work holding option on the Avid, and that got forgotten. So they're going to be sending it down. It's one box was missing, and that was it. It did not get shipped. And they were like, "Oops!" So they will be sending that down as soon as possible. Okay, let's see here. Sargon Tavor says, any tool changer in the future? Not that I foresee, Sargon. I'm a hobbyist. I don't do production. An automatic tool changer would be extremely cool, but that's all it would be cool. I just don't have any use for it. It it wouldn't justify the expense. Because yeah, that's a lot of fuss and feathers to keep me from having to touch off a bit on a touch plate. It's what I can say. Let's see here. Naughty Woodwork says, from my experience, put as few holes in your spoil board as possible. Yeah, I'm thinking of that. It makes a huge mess underneath the more through holes you have. Yeah, I will agree with that. And T-track is just easy. You know, uh, I will say this, Todd, you were asking about my thoughts on spoil board. I'm thinking seriously about going with a plywood sub table and then MDF over the top of that. That way I could bolt down the T-track through the plywood and have that just mounted on the on the frame itself. Yeah, it's going to take another 3/4 of an inch of Z height away, but I don't see that as being an issue. And then do like I did with the Gatton CNC, cut MDF strips to go in between the pieces of T-track, glue them down and surface it. I mean, I got a lot of ribbing when I glued the MDF down onto my spoil board. Well, what are you going to do if you need to replace it? And my question was always, why would I need to replace it? If it gets chewed up all the way down to where it's level with the T-track, surface it, glue another piece of 1/4 inch MDF on top, surface that, and drive on. And if I do have to remove a piece, I have a CNC router, mill it out and start over. But see, Michael Mazalik saying, any thoughts on a vacuum table? I'm gonna try a couple of small vacuum pods and see how they work out. That's I don't have an opinion on them now because I've never used one, but I'm gonna give it a shot and see what happens. I may like it, I may not like it. Now I know that'll take a lot of Z capacity out, but we'll just have to see what happens. I'm not sure. One of the beautiful things about this extrusion here is you don't have to set things on top. You can recess things down in between. And there might be something along those lines coming. I don't know yet. I mean, basically a recessed mounting is what I'm getting at. Let's see. Tim Belt says, how practical, if at all, would it be to add a tool changer to a Laguna Swift? The people you want to talk to are Rob Sandstrom and Shane Peters. I will put, let's see, I will put their contact information down in the description of this video as soon as I'm done live. They both own Laguna machines, and they could better talk to you. I've never been in the same building with a Laguna machine, and I would hate like heck to steer you wrong. So, Rob and Shane. I'll put a link to both of their social media down in the description of this as soon as we're finished live here. But yeah, Todd, you're absolutely right. ATCs add more wires and hoses to the mix. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. Todd for freedom. Love it. I'm thinking of installing a rotary on the same table. Do you have enough extension on the y-axis to mount it directly on the end of the table? I haven't even got this running yet, so I don't know. I really don't know if the spindle overhangs the front of the table or not. On some of them do, some of them don't. And I know that when Avid designed this, that was one of their big selling points, is they tried to set that spindle as close to the gantry as possible, which is why their gantry riser plates on the side are so short. They tried to eliminate that, torsioning as much as possible. But so I don't know if it overhangs the front or not. Let's see here. Kurt Briegel says, I put down a T-track layer for spoil board, then over that one, I can taper screw down the materials. I can easily remove the top layer to get to the T-track setup. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm talking about. By putting T-track in, I could, you know, using the right fasteners, I could just slide another spoil board on top of that. So I already do that for double-sided projects. I don't drill dowel holes into the spoil board. I mount a piece of sacrificial piece of plywood and drill that, and that's what I put my locating dowels in. I'm going to be doing a lot of fixturing. So let's see here. Podman says, what's the maximum Z clearance on the Avid machine? I don't know yet. I'm just getting ready to assemble it and install it this afternoon. Watch this space. More on that later. Let's see. Todd says most of the cost of an ATC is the spindle. Okay, yeah, I don't know. I haven't investigated it because like I said, I really honestly don't need one. You know, I mean, it would be cool, but a Ferrari would be cool too. But what can you say? Okay, Steve, Extreme Woodworker says the spindle does overhang the front of the table. Okay, something to consider when you prepare your spoil board. Kept running into soft limits before figuring it out. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. Um, I I tend to something I did on the Gatton was I went ahead and I put the table up there and my sub surface, and then I just mounted a Sharpie pen in the a half-inch collet in my spindle, and then I ran it to its limits and let it drag on the table itself. I ran it to its limits in Y, went across the table in X, brought it back up to the front, and where it limited out, I had drawn a square, and that's the cutting area of a V bit, with the same tip as a Sharpie, basically. And that gave me my limits. And then I sized my spoil board to be uh, inside that square. That way I didn't have any overhang that would not get surfaced when I went to surface the spoil board. So let's see. Naughty Woodwork says 8 inches in Z capacity if you didn't get it custom. No, I didn't get it custom. The spoil board eats into that. Spindle does overhang 1.5 inches or so on his Pros 6120. I got the 8-inch gantry with the 12-inch Z. Okay. I'm not sure. This is the stock Z. It is not the extended Z because, again, I don't need it. So, Bob Dart says, Mark, does your Avid frame have leveling feet? Yes, it does, and you cannot see them. There's stuff in the way. So, yes, it does. I mean, and these are big, beefy feet on like half-inch diameter thread. So, let's see. There he is, Generations Custom Creations. This is the one of the people to talk to about adding an ATC to a Laguna machine. I've never been in the same building with the Laguna machine, so I don't know anything about them. So that's what Andy Johnson, 2 Acres, does on his IQ machine. Separate spoil board held down with his fixture to install T-Track. Yeah, and in fact, I think that's one of the setups I saw during last year's Vectric online user group meeting was Andy's setup. And I just went, wow, why didn't I think of that? That's perfect. So let's see here. Robbie wants to know, is there a good way to copy handwriting to vectors? Working on a project with deceased family members' handwriting. A straightforward bitmap trace. Scan it as a PDF if you can. Just the sample of the handwriting, because I know there are a lot of people who like to take recipes. Like, for instance, you've got grandma's cornbread. You can scan that recipe in as a PDF and import those vectors into VCarve or Aspire and then clean them up. Make smooth curves instead of jagged or what have you. If you can't do that, scan it as a picture, as a JPEG image, as detailed as you can, decent resolution, and then import that and do a bitmap trace. I do plan on doing a video on scanning handwriting because there's a lot of people that want to know about that. But you need access to a scanner. If you don't have one, places like Office Depot have them, and they'll scan a document as a JPEG or a PDF or both, just for a nominal fee. It's just a few cents. So let's see here. Andrew W. says, looks to be a very, very exciting adventure. It is. Wishing you all the best and fun as you relearn. I'm telling you what, I'm having an absolute ball. I'm also keeping track of the time I have into it. And as it sits right now, I have approximately 17 hours into the build. About 17 hours. And the majority of that was the frame. I had a couple of issues that most folks probably wouldn't have. And that is on this side over here, when it came time to slip the gear track into the extrusion, for some reason, it would not slide in. I don't know if there was a hole misdrilled on the gear track or if there was a roughness in the extrusion or something like that. I really don't know. I ended up taking that piece of gear track out of that side. Then I went over to this side and pulled the gear track out, slid it in on this side, and I did feel a roughness in the extrusion as I was putting it in. But it did get it in. Then I took the one that would not go on this side and went over there, and there was a little bit of roughness getting it in there. So I don't know if there was a hole misdrilled or what. But if it was a hole misdrilled and a roughness in the extrusion, they conspired and combined to make it to where I could not get the gear track in this side. But I moved it over to there and it went in a little stiffer than it should have. And the one from there that went in nice and slick went in over here a little rougher than it should have. So God only knows. But I fought with that for about 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere in there. So if I wanted to recalculate, maybe 17 hours. So I started on Thursday, the 7th. I started working on it, and you see where I'm at. I'm ready to mount the Z-axis right now. So lots of folks here adding in, saying a photo of the handwriting. Your phone works well for taking photos of handwriting. It does. I'll pay leg, take a photo with your phone, send it to yourself in WhatsApp, then use WhatsApp web to download it to your computer as a JPEG. Yeah, there are several ways to skin the same cat. RB Woodworks uses iCloud. Whatever works. I use a scanner because the benefit of using a scanner is the scanner presses that paper flat and gives you a bright white background that if there's any transparency to whatever's been written on, you don't get any reflection back or anything like that. I just decided to go ahead and use the scanner, and it works for me. I have it, so might as well use it. Let's see. Todd for Freedom says, advice, put extra Loctite into the center bolt holding the belt pulleys to the motor mounts. Okay, I've had them loosen a few times. Are you talking about the large pulley on the rack and pinion bracket, or are you talking about the bolt where the assembly bolts to the side of the frame gantry riser? Um, that's good to know. Um, just got to make sure to remember to use removable Loctite 242 blue, because those larger wheels are they are expendable. They are consumable parts. So, yes, the rack and pinion. Okay, but what I mean was the which bolt, the one that mounts that large wheel to the, well, here. Minimize this. Go back to the rack and pinion drive, and I will back over here and share my screen. Okay, looking at the Avid CNC assembly instructions, and this is what I mean. These suckers really, these instructions are excellent. Okay, are we talking about this bolt here that mounts the large pulley to the rack and pinion plate? Or are we talking about, let's see, let's go down here to this bolt here. Okay, you're talking about, you are talking about this bolt here. Okay, I'll get on it. Thank you for that. I will do that. Okay, thank you. Leon, I'm going to put that in a separate video at the end of this build process because, spoiler alert, there are a bunch of variables. It really depends. It really depends. Hit Avid CNC's website and configure one yourself, and you'll see what I mean. There are a ton of variables, and it would be very, very difficult to say what a machine for you would be. I will get into my machine, my specifics at the, I believe it's going to be part 3 of the build series. So, okay, let's see. Tim Belt says, how much of that 17 hours in trying to pick up the heavy parts? Actually, not that much. It wasn't that bad. It could have been a heck of a lot worse. If they'd have packaged things together, oh man. But there were a couple of packages that were over 50 pounds, but most of them were in the 20 to 30 range. But there were a couple of big kahunas in there. So it was pretty wild. But, you know, what can I say? Go big or go home. Okay, I think we've about worn it out now. I think I've got, yes, I did get to everybody's question. So next week will be assembly up to this point minus the motors. I've got in part 1 will be the frame assembly and getting up to the risers. And part 2 will be gantry, etc. And then part 3 should finish it all off, mounting the motors. And just as a example, when I came out to the shed this morning, those motors were still in the box. It took me about a half an hour to assemble and mount those motors. So, I mean, I was surprised because, to be honest, having never worked on a rack and pinion system before, this was the part that I was really sweating the most. And it was nothing. It was really nothing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end that now. I will put links, as I said, to, let's see, John Thompson. Let me go back and find it before we take off. Let me scroll back up here and see if I can find you, John. Okay, can you change the height of a model so it doesn't cut so deep? Yes, you can. That is done in the properties. You can, move the base up. You can position the model within the material over in material setup, but in the properties, you can adjust the height of the model there. So, and that is, yeah, that's all in the properties of the, in the modeling tab. So, okay. And if that's not what you were talking about, John, remember, members only live stream tomorrow. We can get hot and heavy into it there. Speaking of which, channel members, live stream tomorrow, and I'm going to be finishing up our discussion on the tool database that I started the other day and didn't have an answer for. I have an answer for it now. And see you at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. If you're not a channel member and want some information on how to become one, there's a link down in the description, or hit the little join button next to the subscribe button. Little screen will pop up and tell you all about it. And next week, again, we're going to be getting on this and get the assembly done for the frame. We'll do another live Q&A, and I think that's everything. Yes, it's everything. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for, sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing, becoming a member, using those donate buttons down in the description, the super chats, the super thanks. You guys make all of this possible. And I can't tell you how much y'all mean to me. Thank you, every single one of you. So for right now, y'all go do something cool. Get out in the shop, make some chips. Or if you've already done that, go clean up. See you next week, y'all. Thank you and have a good Sunday.